has been the biggest inspiration for people to become mobile. Plus, the cost of mobile phones or smartphones have also increasingly coming down. Like, whatever we considered about 100,000 a year ago is probably you could get it today at about half the price. So the price has been reducing, which has enabled almost everyone to own a phone. And I think the statistics in Sri Lanka is so good that almost every single person living has a mobile phone. I think there are more than 20 million SIM cards in use, so everybody could actually have one. So that's as 1:1, which also means people can move about doing their work. Now today most organizations are in that space where they've said, we'll allow you to use your phone, but ensure you pick up the call. Ensure you reply the mail on time. Like, we really don't worry whether you come to office on time or not, but ensure there are no escalations. So the bottom line which they have looked at is to ensure there is competitiveness in terms of speed in responding to customer queries, responding to proposals, or in terms of speed of delivery. So the mobility has looked at the mobilization of people. Technology has enabled it, whereas the business has looked at productivity and capabilities. So when you look at the adaptation, we are all in this space. I think most of the companies who I consult to or people who I talk to, my peers, they all say that they have mobilized their people, which means they can bring their own device, connect to the network, get work done. But the word BYOD is slowly disappearing. People do not want to use it because at one stage it was very interesting to use that word, bring your own device, which my kids say, like bring your own dinosaur. You know, when you let a dinosaur in, what happens? You also bring a whole lot of problems into your network, into your organization. You talk to the IT guy, they say, you know, how many devices do I manage? The challenges are enormous. So today people are saying, let us allow you to choose your own device, CYOD. So that's where we are headed to. So the organization can say, okay, we will allow iPhones, maybe a couple of versions, Android, a couple of versions, and say, okay, you choose which you want. So you are now limited. So which also allows the organization to be more economical, more professional, and more efficient in doing their work. So most of the time, the two factors which are considered in mobilization is financial and security aspects of it. Some organizations have started to mobilize their processes, field services. For example, it could be insurance on the spot. And it's something as field service, right? You have your insurance claim settled on the spot. Likewise, you have your customer service, your contact center. All these are mobilizing the process. So here we've looked at, or people are looking at, better decision making and streamlining the operations. Some companies in Sri Lanka and maybe globally are in the stage where we're looking at mobilizing the channel, the supply chain. Manufacturing companies actually optimize on the supply chain management. So when the stocks are depleting, the suppliers can actually check in and see what the stock levels are and then make orders or place orders or supply the raw materials or whatever they need on a timely basis. So you don't have to have people saying, okay, we can't do this production today because we don't have the stock. You know, that's gone away. So a lot of channels are being mobilized. Now, if you look at mobile banking, and all of you are very familiar with mobile banking, because most of the banks in Sri Lanka have now got mobile banking in place. Some allow you to do transaction. I think Dialog has gone one step further. They have introduced Easy Cash, where you can do transactions. Some banks have said you can check into the accounts and look at your balances, generate account statements, and so on and so forth. Now, When you look at all these three things put together, we're talking about Internet of Things. I just wrote an article last a few weeks back, and one of the things which I would like to emphasize is that there's going to be sensors and actuators which are going to be placed all over the place, and that's going to be the newer system of the Internet. You have cameras, you have microphones, which are the eyes and ears, which can actually sense and read data for you. Then you have all the applications, the intelligent systems built, and it can actually help you to make decisions. Let's say if you're driving to work along Wall Road, let's say from Panadolu, and if the systems can alert you before you come into Dehuala that the traffic on Wall Road is choking, you probably will take a detour, go to Dehuala and get a car. That's prompting you even before you can actually get to the spot. So you can actually decide, okay, you plan to go for dinner, you can decide which restaurants to choose. So all you have to say is these are things which I like, and then the systems can tell you where and which place you could actually choose your place to dine. The challenges primarily resides when you look at mobilizing a person. The challenge lies with the IT department. The IT department makes a lot of decisions in saying which will be enabled and which will not be enabled, or who will be allowed to have access and who will not be allowed to have access. And most of the time, maybe CEOs here, CIOs, anyone? No? Okay, probably they didn't want to hear this actually. The reason is, most of the time, most of the employees are not allowed to do certain things, but whereas the senior management, the board members are granted access. Right? So they bypass certain parameters, they're given privileged access. Right? But when you look at the process, you need to have the senior management commitment, because when you want to mobilize these processes, you will have to involve all the people, the end users, people who make decisions, heads of business, all of them will have to get involved to decide how they will mobilize the process. And when you have to mobilize the supply chain or the channel, you will have to look at the channel participants, platform service providers, the hosting providers, the telecom operators, all of them will come in. So again, bringing all these people to address security is going to be a challenge. But right now as I talk, somebody actually stepped into one of my sessions and said, Sujit, I need to have a chat. We have a situation where we've been trying to go live, but the IT security team is saying we can't give you clearance. We worked on this project for 18 months and now we're told that there is a major flaw in the system. So when people are involved in bits and pieces or in isolation, you will have major issues when it comes to security. Because the security team is going to say, if you comply, you can go ahead. If you don't comply, you own the rest. Now, I advocate that the security should facilitate business. They should not be saying, stop sign, or you can't proceed further. Because business has to go on. But somebody has to decide the level of risk which they will take for that process to proceed has become the number one attack vector. Why? The capacity. The capacity of a mobile phone is much, much more or stronger than a laptop computer you probably have at home. So today, a person who has a smartphone, he can actually build a script, write a script, execute it, or even launch an attack sitting in a bus or sitting at a restaurant. So, which means people who are knowledgeable, and if they have a mobile, they can actually get into doing a lot of bad things for organizations. The statistics say that 20 to 40% of the applications are infected. Now, all of us download a whole lot of applications from the app stores. There's a friend of mine who works with the US government and the Canadian government. He had to say this at one of the trainings. There was one voice application which was the Apple Store, which was very popular. Everybody was using it. But then they found out during one of the testing that the person who developed the code could actually tap into the calls and listen to what you were talking. Apple didn't make any public announcement about it, but they got the developer to go back and fix it. They said this has to be fixed, otherwise you can't continue. So the things which we think is secure. Now the recent attacks on Heartbleed. What is a Heartbleed attack? Yeah? OpenSSL. OpenSSL was considered the most efficient way of enabling secure access. But when this news came about, people said, this vulnerability had existed for more than a year. Nobody knew about it. So things which we may consider secure at some point in time would become vulnerable at a different situation. It also depends on what actually come into contact. So looking at applications, code reviews. You guys do code reviews. I presume most of you are software developers here. So code reviews, most of the places codes don't get reviewed, so that also is an opportunity for people to introduce malicious code into it. So right now, as I talk, there are more than 15 billion App Store downloads. I think even as I talk, there are people downloading. There are new applications which are being developed. So all of them, and if it is not structured properly, could become a vulnerable access point for an attacker. So mobile hacking is also being on the growth path. People use mobile application to launch attacks. Now, I think yesterday, was it yesterday or the day before, Apple made an announcement saying that they had a vulnerability in the attachments. Right? That they had not fixed that in the latest release. So there are a whole lot of issues which are relating to the mobile phones. So I've listed down, given different color codes here for EC recognition. I have listed the mobile risks. The one you see on your left, the mobile, that malicious software. We are all familiar with that. Now a year ago, I was window shopping in one of the largest mobile stores in India, Universal. So I walked up to him, one of the sales guys, and checking on all the smartphones. Yeah, that's the only way I can figure out what's new and what's actually happening in the mobile market. So I talked to this guy. He said, these are phones which are available, you can buy it and all these things. I was asking him, should I have an antivirus? He said, no, not really. You don't need. Android phones don't need antivirus software. So I said, okay, thank you very much, and I walked out. Exactly a year later, I was passing that way, and again I walked into the same store. This time I was talking to another sales guy, and the other guy who spoke to me earlier was also there. And this guy said, so when you buy the smartphone, you have a choice to choose antivirus software. So you can choose McAfee or Avast or whatever, and this is the extra cost you're going to pay. So I pointed at the other guy and said to this salesman, last year when I came, that friend of yours told me that I don't need to use an antivirus software. But now you're saying that I need to use an antivirus software. So what's the logic? Then he said, no sir, no, we have a lot of worms, viruses on the mobile phones. So if you see, the market also has evolved. They've also recognized the need that they need to have malicious, they have recognized that there are a lot of malicious software out there, and they need to have antivirus software on your smartphones to prevent it. How many of you have never lost a mobile phone? Never? Okay. So that's very few, less than 10%. Right? Even I have lost. When you're an individual, when you lose it, the impact is limited to the contact numbers you have, or maybe your emails and your personal stuff. But when you're using it for corporate use, if you lose your mobile phone, you probably are losing much more information than what you otherwise have, depending on your hierarchy in the organization. If you're at the CXO level, the information you carry in your smartphone is much more sensitive than the person in the accounts payable or receivable would actually have. Now, some people, when we say, okay, do you have a password on your smartphone? Yes, we have it. So what is it? Swipe. That's the password. Or sometimes, yesterday I was at a client place, he was trying to show me something. And I could actually guess what his passcode was. Because I only had to count how many times he was hitting at the same place. So it was 4 times on a particular day. So it's easy. So, and also somebody was telling me, one of my friends, he said, his daughter had said, I can open your iPad. So he had said, no, I have a password. No problem. I'll open it for you. So she had taken the device, held it like this, and she was only following the hand movement. So there are traces. So it's only the eyes can watch the sequence, and then you know exactly where to plant. So these examples show that you don't have a way of controlling attacks, but you can always prevent attacks. So managing the mobile devices has become a big challenge. Right now, if you lose a mobile, it's very difficult to identify. Either you have to go to the operator and tell them, okay, say, I lost this mobile. If somebody is using it again, then probably they can help you find it. But otherwise, there is no way. What happens to your data then? But the new phones which are out there in the market allows you to wipe your data. But if you don't have a backup, you lost everything is there. Then if you look at the next column I looked at, the data loss and integrity. When you install a new application into your smartphone, do you ever check as to what access rights you give to that new application? Do you? Sometimes you find some of these applications would ask for everything in your phone, including your photographs, right? But that application has nothing to do with the file where you store your photographs. Or some applications would ask access to your SMS folder. Some applications would ask for your contact list. So directly or indirectly, you start losing sensitive data because you don't know what these applications do, because they actually ask for everything. And we're so excited using this new piece of technology, we just say, okay, for everything, and install it and start using it. How many of you believe that that somebody can be watching through your camera here on your desktop or your laptop? Is it possible? It is possible, right? So the bad guys or the people who have access to the camera application, they can enable it and see that if you Google, you'll find a whole lot of series, and some of them are scary. People have been relaxing in their bathtub using an iPad, and somebody has been watching it. Right? And I think some of the US government departments have now consciously started saying no mobile phones into conference rooms. Where even though my mobile phone is not being used, it is on, but I'm not on a call. It's sitting on the door. Somebody can activate the microphone and listen to your conversation. It is possible. Right? So the challenges are increasing with the use of technology. These applications can run on your mobile and you will not notice it. It runs in stealth mode. So today, if somebody wants to know what's happening in the corporate boardroom, the best thing is to give a gift. And everybody is happy to receive it. Right? I mean, it's human nature to receive technology, high-tech gadget. It's pretty scary. It's a cartoon, but if you think about it, it has a lot to reflect. There's so many conspiracy theories which are floating around. And one of those things which they say is that the MH370 was actually navigated or controlled using a mobile phone on the ground. That's one of the conspiracy theories. You can't discount it, it's possible. I mean, those of you who have access to or connected to me on Facebook, on layer 7, there is a post about a research which somebody has done on the mobile phones and aviation risk. And when you read it, you probably think twice to board a flight. So it's possible, right? I mean, you don't need a nuclear war. If you have a mobile phone, people can actually hack into systems. And we've been hearing about a lot of hacking incidents. How many of you have had a hacking incident in your organization? If you don't put your hands up, I'm going to assume that you never had an incident. But if I'm going to be auditing you, the first thing I'm going to ask you is, can you prove to me that you are not hacked? In essence, I look very heavy because I met a friend of mine after a long time. And he said, I was asking him, how come we lost touch? And he said that he was diagnosed with cancer. So, until he told me, I did not know, because looking at him, there was no way I could say that he was sick or he was suffering from malaria. The same is true with your corporate networks. And right now, when you had a closed network, it was easy to manage. But now with mobile devices, everybody is connected. Now today I was at an organization, somebody was passing by saying, hey, today we have a new access point, we can download free. And this person was actually running from one end to the other, where this organization had locked it down entirely. But then somebody was doing a testing in one of their departments and they had an open access point. So what does that mean? That means somebody outside has a back door to get in. We saw that back door in our earlier slide. So your network could also open a back door, and sometimes your applications also can open a back door. Now, talking about the cyber war, I think we are in the era where we don't see much of physical war these days. Right? We don't hear much about other than the problems in the Middle East and a little bit in the Russian region. But otherwise, relatively, we are in a peacetime. Does that mean everything is okay? No. Everybody is busy hacking into each other's system. Now, I was just talking to Andrew a little while ago. He was asking, Sujit, did you know about the attack which happened during the holidays, the New Year holidays? Right? All the international bad guys, brilliant in their own ways, were trying to bring systems down in our country. Were you aware of it? If they could do it to the governmental sites, you could have also been a potential target. But if you have no way of detecting and alerting you, there's no way you will know that you were even attempted. When you lose your car keys, you know that you lost it because you can't find it. But when you lose your information or your access to your network, there's no way you're going to know what's going on. So that actually puts us in a perfect storm of security. As we move into the future, we are going to see billions and billions of intelligent nodes. Now all of us will carry an intelligent device, sometimes more than one. So which means there's so many points through which access can be gained or exploited. So the last line, smart bad guys. So they're going to go after. Challenges for security in an enterprise. This slide actually talks about explosion of devices, and I've said what questions you need to ask internally amongst your teams. How does it affect your control on the enterprise? So likewise for the application, the data management, and ownership. These are 4 pillars which every organization is going to be challenged. Some people cannot just say, we will only worry about application. Because application allows you to process data, which means data is going to be an issue. Somebody has to own it. Just because you bring your own device, who is going to own it? You will definitely own the device. Who owns the data? Now, one of the questions I've been asking myself, I worked in different organizations over the years, and I've met different people at different times. And when I meet for the first time, like for example, Ashik here, I met him in 2003, and I was with John Keys at that time. We exchanged cards. Now, who owns that contact? So should I technically hand over my contact details to the organization which I work when I leave? No, so sometimes you might start looking at that perspective as well. So ownership from device perspective, ownership from the data perspective, but we need to be mindful that the devices are exploring. So what should be secure? Everything has to be secure. Device has to be secure. Data has to be secure. Application has to be secure. And more importantly, the users have to be profiled and they need to be secured as well. So this slide explains to you what you need to implement as a control to secure your mobile devices. Now sometimes when you look at all these things, let's look at encryption. How many of you encrypt your data on your mobile phone? I do. That's why I put my hands up. And sometimes you say, okay, why do you need to? But if you're using corporate data, if there is confidential information, sensitive information, that's a control which you cannot discount. You need to have it in place. So likewise, you need to understand what are the applications. Now the spy application I showed you earlier, you will run in stealth mode. So how will you know that it is running? How will you detect rogue applications? How if you play Angry Birds? Now if I put up the slide now, I don't have it anyway. If I show you two slides, you'll be able to tell me which one is correct. I'm sure when you Google, you'll see similar looking URLs. Not all of them are genuine sites. Some of them they say, okay, free Angry Birds. Do you get free Angry Birds? No. No. So you need to pay. So anything free is another thing, which everybody is like crazy and they go, oh, I got this for free. Does anybody give anything free now? You don't even get a free lunch, right? Even if somebody gave you a free lunch, they're expecting you to give something in return. Not immediately, at least in the long term. What's in it for me? That's what we always ask. And if somebody is giving anything free on the net, they're definitely interested in what you're doing. And this is exactly what our grandparents told us. If somebody gave you anything, when you leave school at the school gate, if somebody gave you a chocolate, please don't take it. The reason? They might kidnap you. Don't talk to strangers. These are fundamental things which we had as a society. And probably some of you probably are telling your children right now. So all these things have to be considered when you're looking at security. So what should you do to secure enterprise? Policies and framework, that is important. You need to have a framework for your mobility. Mobility is nothing but you have somebody working on a desktop in the office and he's moving around. Right? So when he comes back into the office, does he go back to the desktop or does he continue to use the mobile smartphone? So you need to ask, you need to have a framework, a clearly defined framework, identifying the risks, clearly saying these are the risks which are identified, address every single risk identified in the policies. Authenticate the user. So you need to authenticate. Anyway, right now if you're looking to look at your fixed network in your organization, all of you get authenticated using Active Directory or LDAP. Likewise, every mobile device has to get authenticated. Connectivity should be secure, end-to-end, encryption, and then, more importantly, create education. Educate the users, create awareness amongst people. Because every new day, there's a new risk which is surfacing. So how aware are we? And finally, you need to be able to monitor and manage it. Only then you will have a secure enterprise. While mobility will give you so much of advantage, business benefits, but you will not reap all the benefits if you do not have a framework which will help you build up a secure enterprise.